Good afternoon, everyone, or whatever time of day it is when you are listening and tuned in to Black History Bootcamp. We are in the middle of our 21-day walking series. It is 21 Pleasure Principles, and this is Vanessa. I'm joined on the line by Morgan. Our opening song, which if you're getting the recording is linked in the comments, was Sunday Service, Balm in Gilead. Morgan, I know you can sing that song real good.
There is a balm in Gilead. There is a balm in dun 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 there. I can't sing all the parts.
Only real churches sing songs like that, y'all. For the record, if you're church, I mean, I don't know if there's fake churches, but real churches sing Balm in Gilead.
It's so funny. Last week, I literally looked up Balm in Gilead. I was like, what is it talking? It's like all these years. Last week, I just looked it up. So isn't that
what did it say?
It said that there was some kind of like sacred oil that was found in this particular region of Gilead that people would put on to heal. It was like anointed oil or special oil, and I don't know what kind of oil it was, but it was some kind of natural plant-based oil that people would put on for healing.
Well, I chose it today as the opening of our conversation because the woman who we're going to talk about, her name is Emma Dupree, and she had a whole yard, a whole garden, a whole farm full of things that actually, Morgan, she was like, I'm not really sure where that one tree came from. She was like, but I got that seed. Somebody bought it for me from Rome. Some people bought her stuff from the continent. Some people, and she would plant it all over and then use the herbs, the flowers, the roots, every part of what she grew essentially to create tinctures and ointments and salves and medicines from her garden. And we're going to talk about her today, but I wanted to dedicate this conversation to everybody's grandma, who was really a root worker. Everybody's great grandma who had some sort of concoction in her kitchen. It might have been in the Crisco jar, it might have been in some sort of glass jar in the bathroom. But our grandmas, they were working up concoctions to keep us well. Vicks Vapor Rub combined with a little peroxide, combined with a little eucalyptus, combined with a little this. And I wanted to dedicate today's conversation to just the root women of our community, to the doulas, to the midwives, to the nurse practitioners, to the nurses, to the doctors, to all of the women who, in whatever skill set and whatever capacity, just show up to say, I'm going to try to be a healer in the way that you do, especially from a medical perspective. This conversation is dedicated to you because you guys have the balm in Gilead and you apply it in so many different ways. I had to take a breath, y'all. Just let this conversation come to me. It's post Juneteenth. How was your Juneteenth, Morgan?
Oh.
No, as soon as I said that, I was like, Lord, I done talked to Morgan. I meant it like in general. But
yeah, it was eventful. It was eventful. I did have a great time on Friday. I went to a Parliament concert, and I was like, we did a boot camp on y'all. I didn't say that, but that's what I was thinking. They were jamming. I'm gonna tell you, George Clinton is 82. He still got it.
I love that. I'm so happy he does too.
That I was
talking about old black men aging.
He got it, and he was. I mean, I don't know. And there's a whole nother generation. I guess he called them the third generation of like his family and followers. These young people who were on the stage with them. It was powerful. And we had some, like my sister planned it. We had some like high tables with her and her friends, and I just went over into the aisle because I don't like to be all smashed up with people. I just went over to the aisle and just danced the whole concert by myself in the aisle. And he started singing, "Get Up on the Downstroke." Oh, Everybody get up. I was just like, you know what? You better sing, George Clinton. And it was just good. P-Funk, Parliament, all of it was just a revelation, 30 years ago, and continues to be revelatory. I was sad Bootsy Collins wasn't there because I still have a crush on Bootsy Collins. And, it was good. I had a good time.
And then on Saturday, you joined, I saw your photo with women from all over the country.
Yeah. Me and my crew. It was me, my sister, and my niece. We walked across the bridge in Charleston. Everybody kept asking us what our GirlTREK shirts were. And this sweet lady, whose husband is a woodworker, she's a white lady. She was like, I saw you guys on TV. That's so good. She was just so nice. So that was great. And then Sunday, it was Father's Day. I went horseback riding, so that was nice. And then Sunday, just a whole Juneteenth community affair. So it was very eventful. And then I literally couldn't sleep because there was just so much going on. I felt like I needed another day. I've decided I'm writing a whole article.
The same way.
I'm writing a whole article about it. I'm serious that I think every Monday should be Juneteenth. I'm writing an article about it. It's coming out on Monday. Check your inboxes. Every Monday should be Juneteenth for Black people. That's reparations. That should be reparational justice is time off, paid time off. That understanding we got other stuff we got to do. We got to rebuild communities. We got to take back the streets. We got to build back up our lives, our hopes, our dreams, our energy source. So.
Look, you're so right. We have all sorts of stuff that we need to do, and time is so precious, and we are asked to divide our time across so many different things. So I totally agree with you that we need some more time.
And we don't put our time in. That's all I'm saying.
That's it.
While lemonade sippers was on the porch, there was a lot of lemonade sippers whose kids is benefiting from the labor of the people who was not lemonade sippers who was out in the field. I'm saying I got time put in. Bertie, May, Morgan, my grandma done put some time in for me. I should get a 4-day work week. I'm saying I should get a 4-day work week. I should then I could do all the tinctures and the balms in Gilead. I could farm. I could do all kind of stuff. But who has time? Who has time to plant a garden?
It's so real. I saw this woman who was doing her welcome walk, and she was like, I done did this welcome walk. I done woke up. I done gave the healing to other people. I got to do it. She was like, but when I'm going to have time to just be like, I got the rest. And I was like, I feel you. I did my welcome. First of all, I felt there's an energy, man. Just tune into the energy, y'all. Tune into the energy and listen to it, because you and I talked about this, Morgan. Even the earth is so intelligent. And sometimes you have to, it's not an accident that the indigenous people really followed the weather patterns. And sometimes the weather is telling you to today is a day of introspection. Today is a day to rest. And there's such energy in the atmosphere right now. It's kind of overcast in DC. It's kind of, but still warm. And there's an energy that I feel like is inviting me to go a little bit slower. And I was thinking about all of the women who were out there who were doing those welcome walks. And it's a lot of energy to hold on the after of a walk, right? It's a lot of energy to just, you did your best, you got out there, you did this thing, you shared your pictures. And I think there might be 1 or 2 women on the line. So I'm going to offer *9 to any woman on the line who was out walking this Saturday or this weekend at one of your welcome walks. And maybe you just had a revelation. Maybe you just had a really powerful interaction with someone. Maybe you have a personal testimony, but we'll take 1 or 2 callers in a minute, just actually about the GirlTREK welcome walks that happened over this Juneteenth weekend, because I just want to honor and give space. And I think Miss Emma Dupree from North Carolina would totally want that for us, because in the video, in the email about Emma Dupree that I shared today, I put a video in there. And one of the only reasons that I'm even able to tell her story now, because every community had an Emma Dupree, really. Every community had a woman who dedicated her life to caring for her community and to understanding nature and herbs and being spiritually connected, but not all of their stories are told. And one of the reasons that Emma Dupree's story was told and then became, I think, so known or once like the lexicon, like she's really known as like one of the people who pioneered kind of herbalism, is because way back, Morgan, some students from Eastern Tennessee University went, some anthropologists, and they videoed her. And so I put the link to the video in the email, and it's 30 minutes, so perfect if you just want to listen to the audio, because her voice is really soft and you can listen to it on a walk. But it's so illuminating, and she talks about so many different things. And I was just like, that's the work of our community. That's why documentation is so important. That's why these conversations are so important. And it's why even the women who were out on the front lines this weekend and you were taking pictures, I saw some really great videos out there. You guys are asking questions of the trekkers and on the news and all sorts of things. But that work is so important, because that's how in 50 years and 100 years, we're going to know what happened. And so I'm thankful to those students who captured Miss Emma's story and who documented it. And she's just so adorable.
We used to do delegations, y'all. And Vanessa, when that first GirlTREK delegation came to Ghana, and Africa with Us is the tour company, they took us to the mountains. And rest in peace, Uncle. Uncle has passed away, but one of our uncles there introduced us to all of these experts at herbs in medicinal herbs in Ghana. And there's a man, and Vanessa, I grew up on the railroad tracks with what other people would call winos. I call my uncles people who be drunk from the beginning to the end of the day. And when I tell you, they're the most endearing people I've ever met in my entire life. And like when my uncle passed away, they just were in the back of the funeral, just with reverence and love for my uncle. And so, these are like my uncles. But this man was just like that. He was drunk from the get-go. Okay, I was just like, sir, you definitely are drunk. But I'm gonna give you a chance. You present to these GirlTREKers. I'm gonna give you a chance. Vanessa, I'm so glad I did. This man knew everything about. He had a whole table. He had a whole table of herbs. I'm not kidding. He had a whole table, all these different bundles of herbs. And then there's another woman who was a doula who had another whole table of all these different grasses, herbs, like flowers, seeds, all this stuff. And they meticulously went through every single one. And they were like, this one's for high blood pressure. This one's for if you experience altitude sickness. This is for, like every single one. And then when we got to the woman, and I recorded it, is my point. Like, because I was looking around, like, ain't nobody recording this? This is like the answer. Like, it was so good. And then the woman was like, well, if you have gestational diabetes, you take this one 3 times a day. You chew it or you put it in a tincture. If your baby is like inverted, or if your baby is this, you rub this on this side. If after 2 months you do this, you use this one. Don't use this one. Stop using this one. Use this one. I mean, she like literally by the month. And then she was like, after, if your breast milk is not flowing, then you have to chew this. And then this, and I was just like, what? How is it possible that we don't know this stuff? It was unbelievable.
It's a huge question. And it's a question we better start asking ourselves, which is, how is it possible we don't know a lot of things? And a lot of it has been intentional. I mean, look, we see what's going on in the school systems in Florida right now, Morgan. They don't even want to let you know Rosa Parks at the back of the bus. Okay, so I just want y'all to know that as we look at what's happening with our education system, just know that those same things happen in our medical system as well. And there's a lot of intentional keeping of information and a lot of gatekeeping and I read a whole article yesterday about, what it takes to get state certified, even as just like an acupuncturist or a herbalist, and there's all sorts of gatekeeping in place that honestly, Morgan, didn't exist until Black folks themselves started trying to get in the game. Like a lot of the gatekeeping that we see just wasn't necessary until it was Black people who showed up to start trying to do stuff. And it reminds me specifically of when I was researching for Emma Dupree. Have you heard of Rebecca Lee Crumpler, Dr. Rebecca Lee Crumpler?
No, I don't know anything about this whole world. I don't barely know what a doula does.
So,
Like, I know, and don't write me. Come on, Ferrante. Don't. All the people who I know who doulas, like, do not write me. But I'm just saying. I don't know anything about this whole
or
field.
the difference between a doula and a midwife. Yeah, it's very.
No, I'll be taking a gang of medicine, Pepsid. like I'm all in the field right now on the dirt road. I'm sure some of these herbs I can chew. I don't know nothing about it. And I'm not afraid. I just don't. I'm deeply ignorant. Just like deeply ignorant. So I don't know who that is my point.
Well, I'm super excited to uplift the name of Dr. Rebecca Lee Crumpler because in 1831, she became the first Black doctor in the United States. And that was almost 60 years before Emma Dupree was even born. And it was 30 years before the first Black medical school, which was Howard University, which was in 1868, I believe, was even started. And just to even give some context, Morgan, at the time that she became a doctor, I think there were 54,000 physicians in the United States in 1860, but only of those 54,000, there was only 300 women in the entire country who were doctors. And then she became the first Black doctor. And even more context, there were only 65 Black doctors even up to like the late 1920s. So it was a field that was extraordinarily challenging to break into, specifically because medical schools were not accepting people of color and Black women in particular, and you needed all sorts of letters of recommendation. But she, Rebecca, grew up in Boston, came from a well-to-do Black family. The well-to-do Black family put her in an early girls' school up there. She left the girls' school, became a nurse, was such a strong nurse during the Civil War that that the lead nurse there was like, you got to go to medical school. Wrote her the recommendation. She ended up going to like one of the first all-women's medical schools in Boston. She then, after she became a doctor, published a really popular book called A Book of Medical Discourse, which really focused on like women and girls in particular and how we have to have a holistic approach to treating them, because the doctors, she felt, were not looking at the root causes of why women and girls were actually sick. She then went on, Morgan, she was like, I'm an abolitionist, I'm an activist, worked for the Freedmen's Bureau, helped to treat so many of the patients that came through the Freedmen's Bureau, helped to train.
This is why we need Mondays off. This is why we need Mondays off. I say you can't be the first Black doctor, write the discourse on medical practice, and still got to work at the Freedmen's Bureau. I'm just like, it's too much, y'all. Every single one of y'all listening is a medical doctor, writing a book, still working at the Freedmen's Bureau. That's all of us. We need Mondays off.
It's so true. It's so true. My friend texted me yesterday. She was like, it's self-care for my day off. She was like, I'm going to just organize my closet, work on my manuscript, get my, like, literally, she had 5 things. I was like, we work so hard. So you're absolutely right. Yeah. That was the doctor.
I might not write this might be the public announcement. I might not write nothing on Monday in the spirit of not doing too the most.
Exactly.
Oh no, give me some latitude. I got to travel. But yeah, no, it's Vanessa. Sorry, my brain went on a whole tangent when you talking about this lady. I was just like, that's too many jobs. She don't work in the war.
And those are just the ones I mentioned because this episode ain't even about her. That just goes to show.
I know the episode ain't about her, but that footnote in history is footnote every Black woman.
Every Black woman. No. It really is. But I loved her story because I was like, this is a reminder that we don't have to be all or nothing about anything. And that while Dr. Crumpler was going the official route of going through medical school, there were still so many communities that were absolutely cut off. You talked about it with Mary McLeod Bethune, and that, you know, that were absolutely cut off from like education, from medical resources. And for those people, when even by the 1920s, we only had 65 Black doctors, those people were like, we have a tradition and we know how to use the land because they have been doing it in Africa for generations and generations and 2 millennia. And Emma Dupree was one of those women. She said her mother, who was born enslaved, and father, who were born enslaved, who lived on the Dupree, I think it was plantation. She was like, her mother used to tell her that she was standing on the porch, 16 years old, can remember when they got their free papers. And she was like, the news traveled, and her mother was telling her this story. And she was like, since she was little, her mother was telling her the story because as a little child, she kept wandering into the back of the woods. And she kept like bringing home like all sorts of like leaves and sticks and all sorts of things. And she said all of the people thought she was a strange and weird little child. And she was like, her mother had to tell them that, no, I had already prophesied from the time that they told me that I was a free woman, that I was going to have a free child, and that my child was going to be free to live her life in the way she wanted. And so her mother consistently encouraged her to keep going back there, because also this is something that's kind of common, or not common, but in the South, it was a practice. Her mother said she was born with a veil over her eyes. And I think we talked about this in another episode. And she was like, and then she became super alert quickly. And so from a little child, her mother thought that she could see things, could sense things, could feel things. And so it wasn't a surprise to her, even though everybody was like, there's something strange about this little girl. And so Emma Dupree, from a little girl, then she went from going back and gathering in the woods to then, Morgan, she started drying out the herbs. She started planting.
You know when we talked about that? We talked about that on the Mahalia Jackson episode, because remember her legs were bent.
Yes.
And they were saying that she developed all these kinds of brilliant talents and like the ability to hear. And then, you know where else we talked about it is on the Peanuts, not Booker T. Washington, George Washington Carver. When I was talking about George Washington Carver, he used to go into the woods and forage and go, and he said he would find God in the woods and God would talk to him, and he knew exactly what herbs and stuff to do. So that's when people reduce him to peanuts. Only he just realized like how powerful peanuts were as a supplement, like even back then, like for malnourishment, for the use of all sorts of things. But he was a brilliant herbalist and scientist that would just go and use plant-based medicine. He was brilliant.
Yeah.
As a child, he was really gifted.
And Emma Dupree was the same. And she had what they called a garden-grown pharmacy, and everybody for miles would come to her at all sorts of hours, all sorts of time. People were like, when people were really suffering and they didn't know how to cure it or they didn't know what to do, people would direct them to Emma Dupree. And first of all, it was a pay-as-you-could, pay-as-you-can situation. And I just wanted to all even think about that in the spaces that we are in now, that she was like, I have this gift and I want to give it to as many people as possible. And so people would come from all over. She grew everything, Morgan: sassafras, mint, tobacco, catnip, horseradish, silkweed. She grew all sorts of things. And then she understood the medicinal properties. And the same students who interviewed her for that video from like Eastern Tennessee University had brought in a medical doctor to do flashcards, because they wanted to, some people say trip her up, some people say prove what her actual real quote unquote medical knowledge was. And when I tell you, the doctor was like, there was not one medical term that I could stump her on. And so her knowledge and understanding of the herbs also included a knowledge and understanding of the medical field and what their
basic Western medicine is so basic.
It's so basic, right? Exactly.
It's not even hard. You know what I mean? Like, it's just Latin, so it seems hard, but it's not even hard. It'd be 17 classes of medicine for 1,000 diseases. It's basically one step up from them pharmacies in the Wild Wild West. It's not that complicated. And anybody listening who's like a scientist, I'm not disrespecting medical or Western medicine. I am, but I don't mean to be. What I am suggesting is that for so long, it has been deemed as superior and is not comprehensive, and it does not speak to other forms of healing, and sometimes Western medicine can be as harmful as it is helpful if it's prescribed wrong. And I'm saying, like, these young medical doctors who come through medical school and have no awareness of holistic medicine, no awareness of nutritional medicine, no awareness of spiritual health, emotional health, mental health, and start prescribing these really powerful classes of drugs, and they don't understand that it's just what you ate for breakfast that's elevating this or that. Like, it is deeply dangerous. And so what I'm saying is, for somebody to go into the woods and find a mastery of how to make her community feel better, of course she don't know the little stuff that these students are taught in 3 or 4 years, 5, 6 years. So that's all.
And she says the exact stuff that you say in that video. She was like, we are killing ourselves with the foods that we're eating. She said the industry is helping us to kill ourselves. This interview had to be like in like 1970 something. She was like, the industry is killing us with how they're modifying the foods we're now starting to grow. She said we moved from cooking over natural wood to adding kerosene. And she was like, every time you cook, that stuff comes up in your food. You could taste it in your mouth. She's like, now we're cooking it on electric. It changes the molecules when it cooks up at that high heat. You don't even understand what the molecules are doing to your body. So like, she really understood complexities. And I'm talking about predates Dr. Sebi, predates all of the kind of like what people are like new age, as a lot of people define herbalism now. No, it's the complete, whatever is the opposite of new age is the actual what herbalism is. It is ancient. Yes, ancient. Yeah, it is an ancient
a raw diet is ancient. A raw diet is ancient. I met this beautiful man in Oxford who is actually doing his research on that. How do we look at indigenous ways of eating and like reclaim those that kept us alive for centuries? Like, let's not try to create the next new diet. Let's figure out how we foraged, how we, like how we ate raw. Like, what are the colors that appeal to our stomachs? What are the smells that our mouths desire to be near? You know what I mean? Like, it's like, when do you satiate? When do you salivate? Like, all these different things. Like, we have to pay. It's one of the reasons why I don't know if I ever told you, one of my pet peeves in life is when people stop a conversation at a dinner table to pray.
No.
I know that's ignorant, but it doesn't, like, pray. You don't have to.
Right.
Like, I'm just saying, like, I understand that, but it feels so aggressive when people just be like,
right.
I'm just saying, because prayer should be without ceasing, that you should be in constant revelry and like, and appreciation and gratitude for everything that came to make this fish on your plate. That everything that made this pot of greens, from the sun rays to you should be in constant praise and worship. As the trees orient themselves to the sunlight, that's how your worship and your praise should be. So you stopping me to announce that you're praying over my food feels aggressive. They're making eye contact and stuff. It feels aggressive and judgmental, but neither here nor there. It ain't the worst pet peeve. It's just a little peeve. It's a little pet peeve. It is the reason to. It really is the reason to pray, or to stop, or to practice gratitude, and to try and taste your food, and to chew slow, and to I went to a yoga retreat one time, Vanessa. You were saying, so did you need to move on?
No, I didn't.
I went to a yoga retreat one time, and it was about mindfulness. And it was my teacher, my yoga teacher. Her name is Beryl. And Beryl, oh my God, she laid into us. She said, "Listen, I don't want you doing yoga. I don't want you on this mat. I don't want you, quoting the Sanskrit and the Bhagavad Gita and all the Yoga Sutra, all this stuff. And you go into the cafeteria, you pile up your plate with food, you eat 4 bites of it, and you leave it." She was like, yoga practice is also mindfulness of every single thing you put in your body, how it makes your body feel, how you respond, how your breath is. She was like, that is as important of yoga than going to just shovel stuff while you just talking and very. She was like, and then just like wasting like precious, like herbs, foods, greens, all this stuff. And I thought about that, and I watched how much waste. Even when we were at the stress protest, I was just like, God, let us be just mindful of what we put on our plates. Let us be mindful for what we eat, how we take our time, how we can digest, how we can taste the food. Because intuitively, going back to the point, intuitively, because we are ancient and evolved beings, we have wisdom and knowledge. And when it tastes good and smells good and feels good to your body, that is good food for you. If it makes you catatonic with the itis, that's not good food for you.
That's right.
If it makes your blood pressure shoot up, if it makes it, like, don't eat those donuts.
That's right.
So there's also just a
mindfulness. No, it is a mindfulness, and you and I have talked about this a bit, and I actually think like post-stress protest, that's a good like milestone and marker for me, because it's like one of the places where we really do talk about like being mindful of food waste. Like I have become, that's an area in my life where I really have become convicted. I'm just like, even and especially when you understand hunger and you understand how many people are going without. And I think about this all the time. And I don't just think about it of like the people who are like, oh my God, I know this person on the street doesn't have enough food, but I think about my own cousins who I know are stretching their paycheck extra times so that they could, because they got kids and they like, how I'm gonna make this spaghetti stretch for the week and this and that. But I just don't buy food that I know I'm not gonna eat immediately. And if I see food in my refrigerator that I think, I'm just like, this food got to go into the next thing I'm eating. And I'm telling you, I got me a big old pot, y'all. I got one of the restaurant thing, and I just be putting stuff in the pot, whatever it is. But like, I just hate to waste food. And I'm just like, I shouldn't got it if I didn't want it. I just this morning I have bought all this corn, and I was like, you ain't boiled that corn. I'm about to make some succotash. And I am not the girl who usually takes the corn off the cob. No, that's like an extra step. But I was like, I'm gonna cut this corn off the cob today and make some succotash, because I didn't have boiled corn like 50 times. So I'm like, what else can I do with this corn? I don't want more boiled corn, but I'm like, I felt convicted. I was like, I don't necessarily feel like cooking today. And also, if I don't cook this corn, it's going to go bad. And I bought it. So it is really important.
I'm so proud of that. Yeah, it's so good, Vanessa. It's so good. And I think we could all do a little bit more of that. And it is mostly like using food to heal thyself. And if it makes you feel bad, stop eating it or drinking it. If after, you drink a coffee, you just feel like your brain is racing, stop. It might be hard in the beginning, but just stop and replace it with green tea or something. So it's mostly about healing our own selves with the herbs that are even available in our kitchen. And then one more quick ancient story is that, I don't know if I ever told you this.
I like when stories start like this.
No, this lady. Okay. So she was completely in control. So I don't know. But there's one lady who came to Ghana. I told you part of this. One lady who came to Ghana, she was walking out in the street. She left the hotel. She was walking down the street. If you've ever been in Ghana, there are these big open gutters. She stepped in the gutter and snapped. Just her leg snapped. She snapped her femur bone or one of the big shin bones, right? And she was in shock. And she just like fell over to the side. And then the way she described this, I hope she's listening to this today. I hope you're doing well. But the way she describes this moment, she said it was like a fairy tale. She said, beautiful black men from every direction ran over to, you know how Ghana is, ran over to her, lifted her up, scooped. One guy, I actually know this guy now, picked her up. They all were, the whole community stopped. They raced her to a taxi. The tour guides came and got in a taxi with her. And the taxi driver automatically knew where to take her. He took her to this place like outside of Jamestown where there is this healer. Now, Vanessa, I was not there. I was not there. I was at my house. I was not there. They then took this woman to a healer. Okay. So she's like, no, I'm fine. We don't know the severity of nothing that happened. She just thinks she's going to twist or something. They took her to the healer. Walk in, it's like the seas part. The people separate, and the healer's son, who was his apprentice, was like, Papa, is her leg. And he came over and he just brought his hand over her leg and felt the heat index. And he knew exactly what had happened. He didn't even touch her, Vanessa. He felt the energetic body. He knew exactly what had happened. He told his son, give me this, give me this, give me this, give me this. It was like a just well-oiled machine in this little, this little kind of hut of a house in Jamestown. And they lay her down and they pack her legs with the strongest smelling herbs you ever smelled in your entire life, and just made like this mud packing. And they just packed it with just herbs and tinctures and oils, and packed it. And then he wrapped it, and he told her, keep this wrapped for 5 days. And on the 5th day, it will be reset.
Wow.
Vanessa, here come Morgan. Think about liability. So I come to the restaurant, and they was like, okay, they trying to talk to me soft, all calm. Okay, Martha, well, we're just going to tell you what happened. Okay, she's fine. But there is a tracker. She was walking out, and she fell. But don't worry, the healer has got her. And I was like, get the bill. We got to go see her. Get the bill. No. We go to her hotel room. When I tell you, this woman is flying high. She rolling around in a desk chair. She got her leg up. She's like, hi, Mark. And I was just like, hey, sister, how you doing? It smelled like nothing but straight up pure eucalyptus up in there. I'm like, what? And she said she smelled like she'd been smelling this eucalyptus. She's smiling. She is. And I said, you look good. You good? She goes, no, I feel great. I feel fine. She was like, I think it's great. And I was like, sis, maybe we should go to the hospital, get an x-ray, get an MRI. Like, maybe we should go to the hospital. And she was like, oh, well, I feel good. He told me after 5 days, I feel good. I was like, no, I have to insist because, listen, it's the thing you do. So I insisted this woman went to the hospital, Vanessa. We take her to the hospital. Another fine guy from Ivory Coast was there carrying her in and out. Oh, shout out to you. And he brought her in the hospital, and we sitting there waiting. They wheel her back. Story's coming to an end. They wheel her back. Vanessa, all I hear is excruciating pain because it was really late at night, and she was the only one in there. They bring her back out. Her face is flush. They have taken the herbs off, the pack off. All of this inflammation came rushing into her leg. All of this, like, sepsis looking brown. I mean, it looks crazy. They have to give her morphine because the pain is level 10. And they take an x-ray and they say, we're going to have to reset her leg. I mean, it's unbelievable. The night and day of this lady's agonizing pain. So then we have to decide, does she get the treatment here in Ghana? Does she take her chances and fly back to America, a 10-hour trip to get her medical doctor? She's consulting with her husband. She's consulting with her doctor. It is a mess. And all I'm doing is sitting there. And Cook's looking at me, and she's like, you should have left it packed work.
I was like, do you still got the patch of herbs? Can you put that stuff back on? And you put back in 5 days just in case it ain't work.
That is my testimony of not believing in the ancient medicine. It is an actual testimony of not believing in the ancient medicine. And I don't know, and I can't tell. Cook said that same man had healed her knee or hip or something like that. She was like, I was walking in 2 days. And everybody knew. Nobody even questioned where to take her. Nobody dared take her to the hospital. So I'm just saying there is an ancient practice in healing that is passed on from generation to generation for thousands of years. And so we just have to also honor that. That's mostly what I'm saying. We have to, and it's scary when you don't know, when there's no white papers, no research, no all this kind of stuff that I have been accustomed to. When it came down to the rubber meets the road, I had to make a call, and I don't know that I made the right one because I did not trust in ancient medicine. So it's just a little story for you. It's a little story time's over.
Well, first of all, I'm walking in my neighborhood, and there's bluebirds all over in my neighborhood, and every time we get on these calls and you be talking, they come like close, and I just feel like, ooh, it's a sign. So the bluebird just carried, and we don't know a lot of things, but we do know there's a scientific study. I just read this as part of the research for this, and they said that one of the dangers of medicine right now is that they did this experiment where people are afraid of authority. And once they get in a space where there's authority, they themselves stop advocating for what they know is right because they're giving over their power to authority. And so they had this situation where literally it was like this fake doctor, and it had these like signs, and on one of the signs was like extra shock going to hurt. And lots of people in their mind didn't want the doctor to do that one thing. He wasn't really doing it as an experiment, but they just didn't say anything because the guy had on a white coat. And they were saying that it's problematic when people actually give over all their power, even to a doctor, even to somebody who's not, and that there is a space always.
Vanessa, Keith Dr. Dixon never even got. Keith Dr. Dixon never even got a ticket from the police ever, for this reason that you're talking about. Ever. He used to be running lights and all kind of stuff, and they would pull him over and they'd be like, "Oh, Dr. Dixon, go ahead and go. It's just, we just." It's just like the police give up their power to this white coat. It's like unbelievable. This black man in a white coat had that much power. So imagine if it's your auntie in there.
Yeah. And then imagine on the flip side if you're Emma Dupree and how many places she went where people tried to discredit her. The beautiful thing of Miss Emma's story is that, one, she speaks really lovingly about how she was still always guided by God and the Spirit, and she said she would just read her Bible, and she said so much of what she learned about herbs was actually in the Bible. And she's like, if you go back and really understand and read, it talks about herbs all the time. It talks about things. She was just like, so she got a lot of her learning from there, and she was guided just by Spirit. And then she lived to be 99 years old, and she practiced herbalism almost up to her, well into her like 90s. And just gave so much to her community. So I wanted to share and uplift the story of Miss Emma Dupree, who was a pioneer in this space, who had a garden pharmacy where people came from all over to learn from her, and who helped to teach people about the healing property of herbs. And we talked a little bit about this on the Dr. Sebi episode, but in particular, I can't think of the name of the plant now, so I don't want to mess it up, but there's a plant that she was using that's actually poisonous, right? If you use it like in like 90% of the instances, but it's not if you know how to use it in like the other right way. And so she had gotten a lot of pushback for using this particular herb. And then now in the last like 5 years, the pharmaceutical industry has released all this information that shows it's going to be the basis of like most new chemo drugs, essentially, are going to have this one plant that she was like one of the few people who was using. And everybody was like, that stuff is poisonous. And she was using it for good. And now they're saying, like, especially with like childhood chemotherapy, like that's this particular plant, they're going to start using a lot because it's so promising. So that's the story of Emma Dupree. We have several hands raised
was it
on the
elderberry?
line. No, it was called something with a P. I had never heard of it, so that's why it wasn't like something common. Yeah, it was something I hadn't heard of. Yeah.
This lady was selling elderberry tincture just at the farmer's market this weekend in Charleston, and I had remembered that Mary McLeod Bethune's students used elderberry, and I was like, oh, this is a coincidence. And it's like this black berry, and she was like, yes, it's very poisonous, but once you just heat it to the right temperature, then the tincture becomes very healing. I was like, yeah, I ain't gonna be able to trust it. I got enough tincture, so I ain't gonna be able to. I don't know if you boiled it right. You ain't Miss Emma. Right. You ain't Miss Emma out here, lady. But I was just curious to know what it was. There's so many herbs out there. You know, they say that that's where peacock gets its colors from eating things and digesting things that are inherently poisonous to it, and its body reacts with these vivid, like, responses of color.
Oh, wow. I think I have heard.
Isn't that something? Yeah. And oftentimes that is medicine, though. Oftentimes that is medicine, is dosage of things that your body responds to create new antibodies or to create new white cells or whatever.
And your body is when it turns red or does something or whatever, it's like it is communicating and it is speaking to you. You're absolutely right. I've been having lots of shoulder issues with my hyperthyroidism, and my friend Joy, the one who I spoke about in North Carolina, is a physical therapist, and she was like, yeah, because you're
tissues are damaged in there because all the white blood cells have flowed there, and they see that there's harm. But she does cupping. One of the treatments she does cupping, so she was doing some cupping on me, and it was feeling much better. And she was like, because I think that your white blood cells are trapped at these sites of injury around your tissues, and it's like, she was like, it's good for the white blood cells to come there, but if you don't move them around, which is, she was like, they can get trapped and stuff. So when she was doing some cupping on me. And so there's all sorts of things where the body is telling us stuff, and we just have to listen. We say that in a lot of this series, but it's maybe the most important thing for a woman to take away from these calls is sleep.
You have to listen, and you have to advocate for yourself. Yeah, I should have gave you some of that tea. Remember I told you that medicine man would come and give me that tea?
Yes, you did.
And made my inflammation go away. I did bring it, but I'm scared to get, because it's powerful, and you got some other medicine and stuff. I ain't trying to be the one.
I know, you're right.
That's why I be trying not to give it to people, because he looked at me, looked at my face, looked at the color of my eyes, my tongue, all stuff. He was like, I got it for you. He done mixed up all these seeds.
So it ain't for me. Actually, that is something you can't be doing. It's for Morgan. It got prescribed for her.
No, so you wouldn't take nobody else's back medicine.
And then just be like, give me some of that. I know that we be trying to do that, but don't do that.
No, that's good. That's another good one.
We only have a few minutes left, and I just want to honor that we have had some hands raised for a while now.
Yeah.
And I want to bring those voices into the conversation. And look, you don't got to say nothing about herbalism or Emma Dupree. If you have like something that you want to share, they're great. If you want to share about the Welcome Walk experience this weekend, we'd love to hear you. So Tyrene, just unmute those women who've had their hand raised. I think it was 2 or 3 of them, so that they can come into the end of this conversation and we can hear from them. I had a really great welcome walk here in DC, and let me tell you how God works, because I still be nervous when I host a GirlTREK walk. I just do. It matters to me. I'm just like, I was rushing. I was like, I said, I got to be there 7 minutes early. That's the rule. And then I was like, I hope somebody comes to my walk. And I was just like,
that new system give you their phone number. So I was calling people.
Look, I emailed them. Yeah, I emailed them. I mobilized. I was like, I can't wait to see y'all just in case. Because I was like, 4 women from my neighborhood, from my real neighborhood, RCP'd. And I was like, I really want them to come. And I was really thinking of these 2 particular women who I've walked with before, who I know live right here in the neighborhood, like on this block, right? And I was like, if those women don't come, like, was I even successful? Because and they were the first. I haven't seen them in months, but they were the first 2 women who showed up. Actually, the first 2 women who showed up, and I was so happy to see their faces because it just felt like confirmation. And then there was a new woman, and she just moved into the neighborhood, and she's super big time over at UDC, and she's came from New Orleans.
Black women are welcome here. That's what you said. What she said.
Yes, I was like, and we just had and her friend interviewed me for the Wildlife Federation, and I did this whole article last year, and she's like, so everything just came full circle, and we had just this beautiful walk. It was a short walk. It was just what we needed in the neighborhood. And so, do we have somebody on the line? Maybe they have a.
You're on there giggling. Somebody on the line.
I am here. Hello. Good morning. Good morning. How are you guys?
We're
this
good.
Is Tiana from Sacramento. How are you guys?
Good.
Hold on, I'm walking cars to walking cars. Right,
what is your name? Wait, what is your name?
Kim Yetta from Sacramento.
Oh, Kim Yetta from Sacramento. Sacramento's got it going on. This rapper used to sing this. I used to be a cheerleader in Sacramento. How you doing, girl?
I am well. I am out here walking with you guys. I want to say that I did my 15-minute training session before I did my walk with my ladies this week. I sent out my mobile email. I posted on our group like I always do, and because I'm a hiker, and people are trying to go hiking with me. I'm like, you know what? I'm a plan, and I put the date out, but I hadn't realized the date was our all women welcome walk. I didn't know, but it was, so it made it perfect. So I sent the email out, tons of emails, tons of text messages. Okay, I'm coming. I got to get there 15 minutes early or 5 minutes early, and I did my speech. But what was amazing was how many things we started to plan together as we're walking. Somebody teaches hula hoop. Oh, we should do that together. We should do another hike together. I found another woman who does lots of national parks. Oh, So I found kindred spirits with people. We made plans together as we walked. We walked in the El Dorado Hills. We went to Bassy Falls at El Dorado Hills. It was spectacular. It was what we all needed at that very moment of the day. But speaking to the part about needing rest, I started my day at like 5:30 to get my kids up, make them breakfast, get them in the car, drive an hour to our meeting point, an hour to our hiking location. And at the end of the hiking day, I was done. I was tired. I was ready for bed. And I went to sleep afterwards and didn't wake up to the next day. But that's what my body told me to do because I gave everything to the group and the hike that day. That's just my spiel for the day.
Oh, thank you for sharing that. No, you said so many important things. One, that you got actually prepared and listened to the training trek. And it's so important because we had so many women out there who are walking, who want to lead and weren't sure they were quote unquote official and just needed something. And so Morgan recorded that with women like you in mind. And so it's so good to know that it's useful. Two, the fact that y'all plan stuff for after, like, is the exact reason we need to walk together, because the walking is just the start. It's like the catalyst for so many other things to happen and so many other relationships to be formed. So I'm so happy that you had that experience.
I have a third one, Vanessa. The third one in relation to your exhaustion too, is that by design, the best walking route is out of your front door.
Oh, of course.
So
I do it all the time.
No. For the other sisters out here. Now, I respect it. I respect. But I'm saying in response to what you're saying, because I have been there, sister, where it's like, we're going to do something spectacular today. We're going to do something spectacular. And you can do that. I'm saying you can do that a couple of times a year, do something spectacular. And for the rest of us on Saturdays with your crew, the best route is out of your front door. And just a 2-mile loop with your friends. Meet me in the kitchen. They can make food for your kids. And then you just walk, you talk, and then in an hour you back to the beauty shop or back to wherever you need to do, back to whatever. And it feels like just such a beautiful respite to be able to do it. So I want to also encourage people that how we are, just like the doctor who also working at the Freedom's Bureau. We'd be like, ooh, she did a hike. I'm going to do a hike. Now I'm going to do this. And we tired. So I'm saying the best design is to do it out of our front door. So I just also want to encourage us to slow down, to pipe down, to not make it, we don't all got to climb the mountain.
We're going to hike. Thank you, guys. Have a wonderful day.
All right.
Oh, okay. We have one more hand call. I wanted to make sure she got in. I kind of cut Camille off. Sorry about that, Camille. Look, a good walk gets you tired. You need a nap faster. You need a nap.
Thank you so much. Bless you, darling. You too.
Hello? Hello?
Hi.
Hi.
This is Leslie. I'm calling from Los Angeles, California.
Hi, Leslie from Los Angeles. Was that you saying bless you, darling?
Yes, a lady with one of my neighbors was praying for me. She just stopped me and she just said, thank you, Lord Jesus. She just started praying for me. Oh, my goodness. So I did a welcome walk on Saturday, and I'm walking the streets of South Los Angeles, and I walk my neighborhood 6 days a week. And I did a welcome walk, and I was so anxious because I kind of suffer from anxiety, and I struggle with meeting a lot of new people. But I pushed through it, and I went 30 minutes early, and I put up Juneteenth placards that I ordered from Amazon. And like the lady said before, I met a lady that worked for a council person from the city of Los Angeles that was one of my mentors when I worked for Los Angeles County. And she was so touched because when she mentioned her name, I started crying because this lady was so classy and so wonderful. And she's done so well in life, and it was just so fortuitous. Another one of my walkers who walks with me on a regular basis is a Delta, and she met a fellow Delta who also was a cubicle mate with her sister, who works for the WIC program in Los Angeles and recently passed. They were at the same ceremony dedicating a building to Black maternal health in Los Angeles, dedicated to her sister. So I said it in my post, Los Angeles is a big place, but it's a very small world. And it was so moving. And also, I have to say, I'm still laughing at the statement. My uncles who everybody else would call alcoholics or winos.
You know, you got some uncles too.
You guys are hilarious.
Yes. So you know what's amazing about your story to me and Kenyatta from Sacramento's story is like, y'all can almost solve any problem on that walk right there because you have so much power. Black women have so much power. Like we are doing, I mean, from council members to WICS programs to maternal health center, like we are powerful.
My girlfriend
the sister who just came and prayed for you. Yeah.
My girlfriend was like, stop crying. I'm like, I can't believe it. I can't believe she works for Gloria Gray. I can't believe that.
Yeah.
It's like that lady raised me in the county. She was like, stop being little fast.
Yeah.
You know, we're professionals here.
Yeah.
Well, I'm happy you got to share your gratitude with your mentor, and I'm so happy that the GirlTREK walk was able to facilitate that for you. And I know that there are these stories times hundreds out there that happened over this weekend. And this is just our reminder to everyone that those walks were the start, not the stop of something beautiful. And so we just have to keep getting out there, keep walking, finish this series strong. This was principle number 13. So we have 7 more to go to the end of this walk, but a woman can start anytime. So if somebody walked with issues this week, we link to the Jumpstart Challenge, or they can start this series on day 1. But we just want to encourage our women to stay out there. And I'm so happy so many of you got to be connected. Thank you for sharing your story.
You're very welcome.
Yeah.
That was so beautiful.
It
Those
was.
are 2 just really beautiful stories. Yeah, it was so beautiful. And yeah, Vanessa, I pray for us that one day somebody will call us classy. I mean, just like this woman was classy. I was like, oh Lord.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh, Morgan, it was good walking with you today.
Good walking with you too. Good walking with you too. It's beautiful out here. Feels good. It feels good. All right, everybody.
Yeah, we're going to listen. I think we got like 2 minutes, so just let this energy move through you for these 2 minutes, y'all.
Vanessa, I woke up this morning with, who is it? With Karen Clark Sheard on my mind. Well, it's an old song, but it's called The Will of God. I don't know if you know the song. The safest place in the whole wide world is in the will of God. You may be on the mountaintop or in the valley low, but wherever you go, wherever it may be, if God says go, you better go. I just woke up with the song just so strong. And she said, the devil's loose in the whole wide world. Whether you're in the battlefield, when God says go, you better go. So come on, Clark. What else you got for me today?
This is Name It, Claim It. So we're going to add that on. Name It, Claim It, Clark Sisters. See you tomorrow.